Hi, I'm Fuhui Chen. In this video, I would like to introduce my master project called Resquaring the City, Chicago. In this master dissertation, the public square making in Chicago is the focus. Public squares are where people of community gather and urban life takes place since the ancient times, as they present the city's identity and cultural background. There are many medieval squares in European countries that fully reflect this characteristic. For instance, the Piazza di San Marco and the Piazza della Signoria in Italy. They are ingeniously connected with urban roads, coordinated with the surrounding buildings, and considered for daily activities, so that they are closely integrated with the city. In comparison, Chicago is a typical modern city with regular layout, skyscrapers, fast traffic, prosperous business district, dense residential area. Within the few decades, Chicago has undergone tremendous changes. However, the public space here is still an issue. As the map shows, the open space in Chicago is quite unequal. The open space in city center is limited due to the high degree of urbanization, while in the rural areas there are so many empty space with low density. Therefore, this dissertation aims to investigate the current road and the situation of Chicago urban public space, and to develop design strategies to resquaring the Chicago city. Firstly, it will start with the research of European medieval squares, and conclude the significant features from them to be a design tool. Secondly, is the research of the Chicago. Finally, it will produce the design strategies for contemporary urban squares in Chicago, and zoom into Goose Island as a test location for detailed design. Chapter 1: Case and Theoretical Study. The first reference is The Art of Building Cities, wrote by Camille Sid. Sid sees the city as more than a collection of buildings, but rather as an artistic expression of human culture. By considering the quality of urban space, the whole of the urban environment is more than the sum of its parts, so he argues. He seeks inspirations in existing urban environments that are cultured and aesthetically pleasing. The richly illustrated books show instructive examples from Italy and Germany, together with classical examples. Firstly, the location of monuments are not in the center or exist. In the past, designers have known the central or symmetry principle that modern people follow, but instead place the monuments on the edge of the square, like the red spot shows in the diagram. This can avoid the obstacle to traffic, appreciation of the main building, and leave more space for daily activity. Secondly, designing buildings close to other buildings instead of in an isolated location. This feature strengthens the connection with the surrounding building to create pictures and interesting scenery, and leave more space for transportation and the distance for appreciating the main facade. Thirdly, the square on the side. The way to create squares on the side of the building make it better used and appreciated, and is highlight the specific side facade with strong relationship with the surrounding building. What's more, it can provide complete space for daily public activity. The next one is the closed feature of public square. In ancient times, people gave the squares a closed feature and consider it as the most basic condition for public square. Designers try to make every corner of the square is only one road into the square, called turbine blade road system, so that it can control the direct view in and the limited view out. Fifthly, irregularity of Asian public squares. This slight asymmetry is cleverly hidden by people's blind spots and visual errors, which ingeniously highlight the main facade of the main building. The feature also worth mentioning is the scale of the public square. The depth square is related to the high and narrow building. The wide square is related to the wide and low building. The grouped square is organized by the scale of the surrounding building. It's clearly shown in the Piazza di San Marco. After research, Sid illustrated his ideas by making refurbishments for ring struts in wind. He considered the disposition of Baltic Verchase to be a good example of bad urban design. He used this design to show how the medieval features works on the modern system. As the two maps show, in the left is original and the proposal. From the original plan, the main building seems to be smaller than in fact due to the oversized squares with unclear distinguish between square and road, and the square lacks enclosed feature. Even the buildings behind distracts the focus on the main facade. The first step is to redefine the new square, creating a depth square for height and narrow volume of the main building by adding two sub-buildings, which enhance the enclosed feature and block the facade behind it, so that more focus is on the main facade. Then is to create grouped square. Two squares for the side facades are defined by adding one building in the northeastern corner, which creates two sub-squares and visual lines for the specific facade. Lastly is to place monuments and plants. With the same technique, Sid redefines the areas around the church Baltic Verchase by increasing the density of buildings in this area to reduce the oversized public open space, reorganize the road traffic, and control the site connect between squares. The last case is from Robert Twist, refurbishment of Boston Creek Square. He resquared the Boston Creek by learning from Piazza del Campo's proportion, traffic organization, and site control from inside and outside the square. The diagram shows the design process, starting from building demolition to create new open space for more opportunities, then add new constructions to improve the enclosed feature, control the view from the outside. After that, he adjusts the height of the building to match the scale of the square and improve the attractions to visitors, finally placing the monument and pavement by road direction. In conclusion, there are 6 features from case study. The location of the monuments are not in the center or exist. The building is close to other buildings. The squares on the side, the close feature, squares in different scales for surrounding buildings, and the view connect between squares. Of the case study is the urban research on Chicago. Located on the shores of Lake Michigan, the city of Chicago is the most populous city in the U.S. The entire city is basically designed by an order with grid system, which form the city into a rigid rectangular network of roads that defines the blocks in the city. River system runs through the city of Chicago, including its city center and rural areas. What's more, Chicago is a complex city with 7 urban typologies. 3 of them are high-density typology with limited open space for public. In the city center is the high-density high-rise typology with huge rise gap between buildings. The areas between center and rural is the high-density medium-rise typology. Most of the buildings are under 15 floors. The high-density low-rise typology mainly spread in rural areas, normally 3 to 5 floors with flat skyline. The most common typology is median density, spreading outside the roof area with median and low building height separately. Different from high density, there are open space with appropriate scale but without good quality. Then the rest 2 are low density typology with median and low building rise. There are large empty space to build up in the future. To combine these 7 typologies to illustrate the current urban scheme of Chicago, the building density and the rise decrease gradually from city center to rural area. As the diagram shows, the blocks are arranged by grid system. The pink tab is the river system, which cross the city center to rural area. Chapter 3 is the urban strategy as design tool. The issues of public space in Chicago cannot be ignored. Overdevelopment in loop areas decreased open space to be limited, fragmented open space, and weakened connections between space and urban due to the less focus on public space design. The objectives are developing the surrounding areas to release the pressures in city center, reshaping the squares with good quality, and creating connections between buildings, human scale, and the squares. The strategy is to create new squares network based on the existing Chicago plan with urban typologies, regular grid system, river system, so that view connections can be established between squares instead of being isolated, and the river landscape can be joined. In order to create squares locally, there are 7 strategies for 7 urban typology. In high-density, high-rise area, limited open space can be used, so reusing the existing roof space is the strategy, as the pink color shows in the diagram. Then accessibility with stairs, rampway, lifts, and bridges is the red color shown in the diagram. The next one is the high-density medium rise. The big roof space here is less than the high-rise typology. So combination of the roof space and added new roof is the solution. The new added roof is above the road so that it cannot affect the traffic. Then is the high-density low-rise area. Limited open space and roof space can be used. In this case, adding new roof space between buildings is the strategy. Secondly, is the strategies for medium density, totally different from high-density typology. Existing open space here have appropriate scale, but it lacks good quality. So in the medium rise area, the strategy is reusing the roof space, redefine existing ground squares, and adding constructions to improve the quality. Then in the low rise area is to build up new buildings to redefine the existing open space. Thirdly, in the low-density area, densify is the main strategy due to the oversized open space here, adding new constructions in medium-rise area to create totally new squares with rise scales and view contact to the other square. The low-rise typology is mainly spread in the industry areas, so it should consider building demolition and add new constructions to have new squares. After that, the new scheme of Chicago City is shaping under the strategies. As the diagram shows, the vertical squares spread over the city with different heights from more than 50 meters to ground level, and there are view contact between squares based on the grid system, which enhance the continuity of urban space. At the same time, the river landscape is introduced into the squares. The last chapter is a test location in Goose Island and the surrounding areas. Goose Island is a perfect location surrounded by rivers because it junctions with city center and rural areas, and is also the junctions with 5 urban typologies. Using design tool proposed from previous chapter to resquare the 5 typologies in Goose Island and its surrounding area to see how the strategy works on the specific site and what's the change between the typologies. Following the design strategy, collecting the basic map of Goose Island and overlap them to create squares in different typology. So with the grid system, the new square network has view contact to each other and join the river landscape to squares. As the diagram shows, the red is the redefined square and the pink volume are new construction. There are 5 plots I picked for different typologies for detailed designs in Goose Island and the surrounding areas to see how the squares link to each other with squares network. The first location is in the Goose Island. It's a low-density, low-rise typology, which has large empty space. Most of them are parking lots. As the diagram shows, the open space is too big for the short and flat surrounding building, and the view from the street lacks a sense of leading. So the strategy is to demolish abandoned industrial buildings and build up new constructions, as the red line shows in the big scheme, which defines the new squares. As the diagram below illustrates, the open space now is smaller and with stronger enclosed features, so that the view contact between the squares is formed and the view from outside is controlled. Finally, to place the monuments to be an attractions in the squares according to the road direction. In this case, the view from the street has a stronger sense of leading than before. The second location is in the west of Goose Island, which is medium density, medium rise typology. The size of the open space here is appropriate, but the enclosed feature and the view controls is weakened, as the diagram showed. The strategy in this typology is to build up constructions to enhance the enclosed features and control the view from the inside and outside, and adding new stairs and lift to reuse the roof space, then placing the monuments and the pavement according to the road direction. So now the view from the outside is limited, and the roads leading to the squares have a strong sense of leading. Then the high-density high-rise typology is located in the city center. It's difficult to use the limited open space to be public. However, there are huge existing roof spaces can be used. With the large rise gap between the buildings, it's necessary to analyze the rise of the buildings in this area. The strategy is to reuse the existing roofs to be squares, accessed by extra stairs, lifts, rampways, and bridges. Choosing roofs where at least one side is not blocked by tall buildings and have view contact to the neighboring roofs. In this way, it creates view contact between the surrounding roofs and have view contact to the urban landscape. Also use the design tool to create roof squares in high-density medium rise, and also in high-density low-rise. Then is the view contact between squares from the street perspective in Goose Island. Finally is the view contact between roof squares from roof perspective. At the end of this presentation, I would like to say that the design of architecture, public spaces, and urban are not isolated from each other. They should be designed as an entirety and work together to create a unique urban atmosphere, memory, and culture. Thanks for watching.